Hi, Dick. How are you doing? This is
Okay,
Sue. Okay.
what's going on today?
On the board meeting,
Yeah.
I didn't get an agenda. I'm just a visitor.
Uh-huh.
Hi, Todd.
Oh,
Hi, I've got a cup of coffee going, so I'm going to go get it in a minute. But
Okay.
oh, there it is. Well, we're recording, huh?
I guess so.
So they say. At least we know we all have the right link because we're not alone.
Yeah.
yeah. I was worried about that
Yeah, where
myself.
are they?
When I first got on, it was by myself, and I wondered if maybe it was the wrong link.
I, th- I
Yeah.
thought I thought the same thing until Stu said something.
Yeah,
Have you heard any more about Dave and Carol Canterbury, how she's doing? Is she home?
I haven't. No, I've not seen anything, and I've not been in touch with them. They're kind of hard to get a hold of, understandably.
Yeah. We'll have to follow up on that. It was really good to see the Boskis. He looked real good.
Yeah, he looked good when I saw him too, but he's one of those guys that is, always the gentleman.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't even know if he knew me or knew where he was, but he just smiles and said, "How are you? Thank you so much for coming." So I
Yeah.
was relieved to hear he went home without
Well,
having to stay
that's what
in
they said.
rehab.
Because she had been told he's going to go to rehab. And then
Hmm.
she texted me the next day and she said, well, I guess he's going home. So I said, well, what happened? And she said, well, he wasn't doing bad enough. Oh,
Okay,
excuse me.
well,
Someone just came to my door.
so
Sure.
what kind of health problem was there?
Well, he had heart surgery. I think
Mm.
it sounded like an aortic valve cleaning or something. I don't know. And then he had at least one stroke in the hospital before they
Wow,
sent him home. So,
that's not trivial stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've had a stent put in before,
Have you?
and unfortunately that was trivial stuff.
Well, they're becoming more trivial. It's amazing,
Yeah, I came
you
out
know.
a lot better coming out than I went in, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And I've been just getting better since then.
Well, that's good.
That was about 6 years ago now.
How's life in general for you?
Well, I guess doing okay here. Still trying to fathom what's going on, what's going to happen in the Middle East. All the
Yeah.
ups and downs. It's kind of crazy. I guess the whole world's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So somehow we have to get used to the craziness. That's the hard part.
Yeah, it's never been as bad as it is now. It seems like as far as that goes, craziness.
I guess the only good sign was when they elected a Democratic representative to the House in Florida in Trump's home territory, Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Said in the paper that the Republican had won by 20%, 20 points a couple of years ago. Now a Democrat won by almost 3 points.
Right.
And there have been a number of things like that, which the a hopeful sign.
Right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that means that more and more people are waking up, but it's hard for them to express themselves without uh, avenues like special elections once in a while. Mm.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish we had more of a European type system where you could, a president or the leader, prime minister could lose a parliamentary vote and have to enforce new elections would be forced. You see,
Right.
that's exactly what we need right now. So maybe these fall elections will take away Trump's majority. We'll still try to ignore that, but
Well, I sure hope so. You know,
yeah,
Trump is obviously the worst thing in the world, but I continue to be as troubled. We're not as troubled, but troubled by the people on the far left, or at least who say they're on the far left, that are just
right,
as intolerant. And you look at how Sophia Bentecourt got into power.
right.
That was a complete violation of any kind of democratic processes. And
Yeah,
how can they claim to be any better than he is?
yeah, and that's still pretty. It seems like the people running the UA really, even though they're nominally anti-Trump, they've used Trump kinds of thinking and tactics, just to get in power and place their own people in power and good. I think part of it is just to get good positions, and take advantage of whatever enthusiasm is out there for whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
With you know, Christina Rivera going to, I think she's out of Strict Theological Fellowship now, but she was there. And Aisha Hauser. I mean, those are the two architects of the white supremacy culture
Yeah,
teachings and whatnot.
yeah.
And I don't know if you heard the story of how Aisha Hauser was at the Big East Church here near Seattle as an RE director for several years
Oh,
before she was given this job at the CLF.
is that
And,
right?
and it created a lot of havoc. They lost about a quarter of their membership. And
Wow.
they finally had to push her out very hard. It wasn't the minister. They finally got the minister with the guts enough to push her out because she was offending people with all her whiteness stuff so much.
Hmm.
And I have a good friend, Ron Hammond, I know from Boeing, who was over there. Just it's a lot of Microsoft Boeing kind of people, top-notch people at the East Shore Church, and they were fed up with all this ideology stuff. And so Ron sometimes he went to our saltwater church retreat last year, and he goes to West Sides, West Seattle, but he's never gone back to the East Shore Church, even though they're better off now. They've recovered from that, I understand. And the West Seattle Church has recovered also from their, in this case, a minister pushing whiteness studies for about a year, and they lost over a quarter of their membership too.
Wow.
I think some of that's coming back, but a lot of it never will.
Yeah, it's very destructive stuff.
Yeah, and then with the new Salish Fellowship in Quimper in the Port Townsend area, that looks permanent now. It's like a permanent split. It's like um, because the people split off just could never get a hearing back in the main church. They would rather have stayed there, but there was just too much censorship. And it was all about adult RV. You can't talk about anything critical of the UUA, review a book that might be critical of the UUA, anything like that.
Yeah,
And that people have still dug in there. Mm.
right. Hey, Gene.
But at least there's hope there, but it's going to be hard for NAWA to ever rival in size or extent.
Well, I'm out of Nawa.
Yeah,
I think they're just as rotten, if you ask me.
yeah. Well, you get individuals who have their own agendas.
Well, they have their own agendas, and they're trying to take it in the same direction the UUA's gone.
Yeah.
That's
So,
why they pulled this little coup, man, and got me out,
right. Yeah.
because they want to adopt the seven principles and turn it into the UUA. They don't care about none of those people even know the history of Unitarianism.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. I'm disgusted. My only regret is that my name will be associated with it forever.
Right. Well, I really enjoyed your uh, Ingersoll sermon. I've heard a
Oh
lot
yeah,
about him in the past, and I'm probably more knowledgeable of UU history than most Unitarians by far. And I've
sure.
always wondered more about him. I'd heard the slurs against him. I thought, I bet this guy's got a lot to say, you know. And that was one of the best presentations of it I've ever heard. I guess as you said, because he didn't write a lot of books, speeches,
Yeah, he just apparently just published his speeches.
and it's hard to for books to reproduce the quality of speeches. Yeah. Even if it's word to word, the way a speech is given is so important. But I didn't know he was sort of the prime mover um, of being agnostic, which is probably was just the right thing for his era.
Well, it looks like Nancy's coming in. There they are. Just need to unmute yourselves.
Do you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay. So, despite all our trouble, I asked Cindy. It's over there. If we could start today with chalice lighting. And it says, we light this chalice as leaders and stewards of this community for the trust placed in us and for the vision we are called to hold. In this season of generosity, may we lead with openness, courage, and gratitude. May we remember that this work is not ours alone, but shared among many hearts and hands. Let this flame remind us of the power of community to sustain, to inspire, and to grow. Together, may we guide this congregation with care as we invite others to join in the promise of all we can build together. Thank you.
Can you tell me who our lower left person is, the fuzziness?
Sue Shears.
Okay. Everyone, we have a long agenda. Do we have any changes, additions to the current agenda? Tom?
I'd like to add 3 items. Some of them might just be to mention so that they get on the next agenda. But I have an issue that's arisen with getting the UUCS Americans United magazine article that I think the board could, I'd call that 13.4. And then 13.5 would be to have at least an agenda item for the next time, not for discussion, some kind of an audit or review of our emergency status and evacuations. Who does what, and that maybe it is an emergency, but I'd like that as 13.5 so it gets on the next agenda. And then 13.6 is to just go over the things that have been on the list for March and April for the board to do. Prepared by Rebecca.
Okay, with those additions, is everyone okay with the agenda then?
Yes.
Can we amend or approve and or amend the February 20th?
Approve.
You approve or approve?
Yep.
Okay. Our next meeting If we follow our usual plan, it would be executive committee on Wednesday, the 15th, and board meeting on Wednesday, the 22nd. Now that we've become skilled connecting with our Zoom. We can do in person and Zoom, or we can do all Zoom. Preferences? So you would be a Zoomer.
I'd be a Zoomer.
Okay.
Say that's so.
Yeah,
Based on how much trouble we had.
yeah, and if no one else wants to step forward, I can be the floater.
Voting trustee.
Wow. Then for the meeting, I have a Rockwood activity, green team birthday that I'm supposed to participate in that could last till 3 or 3:30. I would prefer a Zoom meeting or I might be late to a meeting here.
Resuming, okay?
And we have our team. And I think some additions now. Do we have a question from Jean?
Yeah.
I just wanted to suggest that you move the microphone around, and we've not heard what's gone on. At least I haven't heard the last 5 minutes. So you do need to speak into the microphone.
What about
No, the
others?
problem was I accidentally came unplugged.
Oh, okay.
We're plugged back in now.
Yeah, I see the light blinking.
Oh, speak into the microphone.
Okay. Well, the liaison person, as I am, when I was agreeing to become one, I was told it's not a big deal. Well, it seems like liaison role is to be mediated to ensure a smooth, efficient interaction. So I would like to read my report with some explanations. So the March 10th operations team meeting was attended by 2 people, Rebecca, Julian, and myself. And Rebecca gave a summary of the preliminary budget, and that looks similar to the last year. Talking about the long-term sustainability of the church, she stressed the importance of keeping more money in the endowment fund for a healthy growth of interest to provide annual contribution. Rebecca praised our new bookkeeper, Renee, who has a sharp eye and skills to fix problems created by the previous bookkeeper. Several projects will take place soon on the field of building and grounds. A new fridge, though more expensive than planned, will be ordered in June. The parking lot resealing and repairs is scheduled for July. On the subject of RE wing heating and air conditioning system, Rebecca explained the way religious education wing was built several years ago. There were no ducts installed. Maintaining the 4 units in the rooms is not cheap. The repairs of the bad components will cost about $1,500. But replacing them is way, way too expensive. Evidently, the this is the biggest expense on top of the office printer. New printer is, well, the old printer is too old. It's 20 years old, but it works so well. But there are problems when you have an old printer and you cannot update it. Among other topics covered by the generosity was the generosity campaign and the new team led by Nancy Avery. Rebecca is very pleased with fundraising and pledge drive teamwork. Her suggestion is to create a team to help her with the short-term rental events and do more advertising, promoting the building itself, the church building, including the row room. By the way, I made a mistaken spelling. That's when I did the report, I did not print it out. A day before this meeting, I printed it out, and they found out one misspelled word and one missing sentence. So including the row room and the property outside. Regarding the emergency procedures updates, Rebecca appreciates concerns and ideas for improvement, and that's where the missing statement is. All necessary updates are done. The staff has its own procedure book. And Rebecca added emergency evacuation map can be added if necessary. Rebecca thinks the ushers don't have to be trained for evacuation. Their role is to welcome people and make the services go smoothly. I should add to that after I finish my report, I cannot remember all the words or statements and sentences. It's impossible. I'm not a stenographer. And I think that, well, this is my opinion, I'm the wrong person to be the liaison because I see the big picture. What Rebecca meant in her opinion is something that we have the same goal. We want to keep the church building safe, the people and the congregation be safe. Be it Rebecca, staff, the office, when they're here in the church, or the people who are present on Sunday. That's how I perceived it. But I may or maybe not clearly conveyed it in my report. For this, I apologize. And so that is the end. And oh yeah, the only thing I remembered, Rebecca also mentioned that somebody left a binder for the ushers, which was very old, 2009, 2012. She couldn't say who left it and what was the purpose of that. But that is the extent of my correction to the report, which I made it possible to improve on the spelling and this missing sentence. And they asked Marilyn, Nancy, and Cindy to include my corrections into my report. Thank you.
No problem.
Yes.
First, my architecture background comes in when I look at the statements. When they said there were no ducts installed,
I'm looking right up at the ceiling and I'm seeing ducts, what I call heating and ventilating ducts. So did you have any idea what she meant by there are
I
no
have no
ducts
idea.
installed?
I'm not technical person.
Yeah.
I'm just interpreting and relating and reporting what I heard.
Okay, when she referred to the 4 units in the rooms, maintaining the 4 units in the rooms, what
Up in the
units?
ceiling. Aren't
They're
there,
on the roof.
Todd, am I correct that there are furnaces up in the ceiling?
Yeah, and there's definitely ductwork in there.
Yeah,
There's no air conditioning, obviously, blowing in those ductwork. That may be some confusion on Rebecca's part. I don't know. Because we do have obviously heat and air in the sanctuary and that part, the rest of the building. So I don't know what she was talking about there. But if she's mistaken if she thinks there's no ductwork through that wing. The problem would be getting air conditioning into it.
right. So there are 4 furnaces above in the janitor's room up with that ladder. There are 4 furnaces up there and they are heating but no air conditioning and they come through the ducts into each room. So
Exactly.
he's referring to is they need repair and they're too expensive to replace.
Yeah, they're old and they are consumer grade, not professional grade or industrial grade to begin with. That was a shortcut, one of the shortcuts in getting the building
Right.
built. And you'll remember in those days, the RE wing was occupied at best for 8 or 9 months of the year. Nobody ever thought that we'd have summer long church or that we'd have global warming in the Pacific Northwest. So that's part of the problem. The short-sightedness was understandable.
Yeah, I was involved with that planning and we couldn't afford the big commercial that we should have had. So we satisfied with essentially four residential units, which are the original units. So they're 33 or 34 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, that clarifies that. The other one, and Todd, maybe you could help clarify this. When the discussion took place about the emergency procedures manual, including updates or something like that, the statement is that the staff has its own procedure book, and that rang bells with me as to whether who is the staff? Is this an implication the staff can do and the lay leaders can do the emergency evacuation procedures? Because the ushers, even as far back as Warren Carpenter, who I spoke to yesterday, said that they had those kind of instructions in the usher instruction books when he was lead usher, and that's 6 or 7 years ago. So that part has got me confused about whether or not the ushers are doing something and whether the staff is going to be able to do that, considering the staff is not always there, you're not always there. And that leaves, who's our paid staff?
Well, I don't know what she's again referring to there. I'm assuming she's referring to the staff having its own procedures during the week. Safety procedures for itself during the week, right? Like we have certain rules around how the doors are to be locked or unlocked. When the office door, for example, is propped open, we want to make sure that the outside doors are closed. We have a buzzer for people who need to get in. So those sort of things are in place. That's what I'm assuming she's talking about. The ushers, have been trained in fire procedures for years. That's something we started shortly after I got here. Because at the time, the policy was to actually upset a church service and have everybody leave and go out to the parking lot, which made no sense to me. Yeah, I've never been in a church where we were required to leave the building and go out into the parking lot. But we created the system for the ushers to and the lay leaders to kind of know who does what and what the procedures are and where they are, that sort of thing. So I think that's what you're referring to, Tom.
Yeah, and what I did in my comments back on that was to suggest for the board to consider that we do some kind of a review or an audit as to whether we have this under control and whether the evacuation to the parking lot, if we have to evacuate the building, the idea of going someplace isn't unreasonable, but are we satisfied as a policy board that we have things in place to ensure the safety of whoever's in our building? And if there's any question at all about that, then I think that we ought to see that in the future somewhere that we look at that, whether it's called a review or an audit of our emergency procedures and our evacuation instructions and those sorts of things. And whether the lay leaders really, if you ask Gordon Diddens, does Gordon's lay leader crew know what's to be done? Or is it all up to the ushers who are the only ones with instructions? So.
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me for the ushers and other people like that, that maybe there should be a number of different scenarios posed. And what would you do in this scenario or that scenario? Because I think what's going to have to happen is the people in charge in any kind of emergency are going to have to figure out what's going on first. You can't sort of automatically shove everyone out the door when maybe there are going to be fire trucks or fire police right there and they want to have their room or space. You know, you can't tell what might be required beforehand in any particular situation. But I can see how if somebody poses some kind of emergency and then they figure out how to react to it and have some exercises, they'll get a feeling of how to work together to adapt to whatever really does happen.
Well, we do have that, again, around an emergency where the church needs to be evacuated. That's something that both the ushers and lay leaders should be trained in, once.
Right. If that's the decision, but not presume that's necessarily the decision beforehand until you know it. That's the hard part, I think, is understanding the situation in an emergency.
Well, our alarms would go off, and we would have to evacuate the building. That would be the first sign. So that's what we're trained in now.
If there smoke alarm,
I don't know what other scenarios there are. I mean, people have talked about a potential shooter.
Right.
That's a very difficult thing to prepare for. We have policies in place around keeping the doors locked once the service is started, that sort of thing. But you can't exactly stand up in the pulpit and say, "Okay, I want everybody to leave in an orderly process," while somebody's firing guns. So, I mean, I think as far as needing to evacuate the building in an emergency, we have that covered. So long as Tom points out, there's systems in place to make sure those who are responsible for that are trained. And that makes sense that it's the people involved with the service. So you have, 2 to 3 ushers there each service, and you have a lay leader. And if I'm out, you have the lay leader would do my part. But that part's planned. We know where the exits are. We have instructions for people whose kids are in the RE wing. RE should know what they're supposed to do. And the route they take the kids to the parking lot, and the parents will meet them there. So all that is in place. I think it's a good idea, as Tom points out, to review it and make sure it's actually being followed. And if there needs to be some broader policy on it, I think that's an adequate thing for the board to consider too. So I think it's a good conversation.
I think something like a shooter is not too likely, but it certainly is a possibility of some kind of.
Well, it is. But I mean, again.
And then how you prepare for that,
right?
Yeah, it's so variable.
Well, let me say this. I'm willing to, if it's lay leaders, and you Todd, and the ushers. I've got kind of the ushers corralled and have them with an idea. I think I'll take the responsibility to contact Gordon and see whether he feels his team needs to have a sit down so that they know what their responsibility is. If that satisfies the board, I'm willing to have a conversation with Gordon. Well, how do you think?
Does that sound good to you, Todd?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we could plan I think we should do it at once a year anyway, where we plan an after Sunday run through together.
Okay. The secretary report update.
Oh, yes. The approved meetings of January, Board of Trustees meeting, was forwarded to Rebecca, and well, she got it.
Very good, very good. On the treasurer's report, Dick, if you can go ahead with that, but we're going to save discussion of the budget summit for a little later in the agenda.
Let me ask one more question. Did you get the last update in the policy and procedures manual?
Yes, I told you last time, yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and Rebecca got everything that you asked me to forward to her.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, actually, my treasurer's report was going to focus mostly on this budget summit because the first quarter results are not out yet. They will be next month for January through March. And so, as far as I know, things are going well in the financial situation, but the issues now are more, I think, focused on next year's budget. So,
okay, hold that thought, and we'll be there in just a moment.
Right.
Unfinished business, the bylaw change. That was sent to you all with the agenda. It was for the board appointed ex officio non-voting trustee, and that is a mouthful.
Yeah. Okay, and that would, this is kind of the second run through of this. And I won't read, most of it's existing wording, so I'll just focus on the additional wording. We'd be under the Article 6, which is Board of Trustees and voting, we would be adding the little bit of language so that the sentence would read, the board is a governing body of UUCS and shall consist of 7 elected, that's a new word, members of the church, and then new words, and certain appointed and or ex officio trustees. Then the term of each elected, again saying elected position, that's a new word, elected, shall be 3 years with staggered blah, blah, blah. And then a new wording in front of the existing sentence so it would read, an elected trustee who has served for 2 full terms would not be eligible to serve a third. So we're focusing on elected versus appointed. That's what the wording in there is all clarifying, elected, and then authorizing the appointment of an ex officio trustee who would be treasurer. And then under Article 7, which is a separate article, under Board of Trustees and Board Appointments, it would read in its entirety, and this is the existing language, at the beginning of each fiscal year, the board shall convene and elect its officers, president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. Each officer shall be a trustee, and then adding, the treasurer may be a board appointed ex officio non-voting trustee consistent with the article that I just, that is down below, where it describes the treasurer, adding the language, the treasurer who may be a board appointed non-voting ex officio trustee, and the treasurer shall be a member of the finance team, and we're adding the words at the suggestion of Dick Steele, and preferably chair. So the treasurer shall be a member and preferably, but not absolutely, chair of the finance team. So that would be what we would be as a board approving, if that's what we do, to be an amendment before the congregation at our June 14th meeting.
Okay. And we need to vote on that today to move it forward as an item on the general.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would move that we make an amendment worded as I've just reviewed to go on the annual meeting agenda as an amendment to our bylaws.
Seconded.
Moved by Tom, seconded by Luba. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay.
Board appointment to fill Justin's position. Nancy.
Yeah, Tom had sent out an email suggesting that that be the job of the nominating team. And I would like to suggest that the board take responsibility for finding a person because the nominating team has been tasked with finding 3 people, and there's one person doing most of the work.
And Nancy, you know that when I sent that out, I was incorrect in thinking that our appointment would fill the entirety of Justin's term, but that's not correct. It would be only until the meeting in June.
And then the congregation would have to vote on that person.
Well, if that person's willing to.
Yeah.
Just to intercede here, I had a discussion shortly before this meeting with Betty Bradabo to clarify that, and she had been under a misunderstanding. So what we talked about was they will try to find a 4th person. There are 3 full-term positions, 3-year positions that need to be filled, positions 1, 2, and 3. And then Justin's position was position 7. And they'll try to find a 4th person that would be willing to serve the 1 year at the end of his 3-year term. And then if that person would be willing to be appointed early for the remaining 2 positions, that would 2 months of our term this year, that would be fine. But there's nothing that says we have to appoint. We could function with a board of 6 people, 6 elected people until the end of the year. So she didn't turn down that she would continue efforts to find a 4th candidate for a 1-year term. But
yeah, we have too little time to find a person just for this short period of time. Maybe just forget about that and look for the 3-year term people.
Well, we need to have a 1-year term, a one year term
1-year
person,
term.
and 3-year terms.
Okay.
But are you suggesting that we just continue out our year with 6 members and not
Yes.
attempt to fill the appointment?
That seems reasonable to
Yeah. Now, there is a possibility if they locate a person willing to serve 1 year for 26 and 27, then we could ask that person if they would accept an appointment, because that would give them a chance to get their feet on the ground.
Okay.
But let's, if everybody's in agreement, how about us not make an effort to appoint at this point
Yes.
For this year.
for the remainder
For
of
the remainder
of this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like too much effort for
Of
too
course.
little reward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't change the quorum very much. The quorum for 2/3 is the same for 7 or for 6 of us. It means we need 4 at least to do business. So it doesn't change that. It opens up the possibility of a split vote 3 and 3, which we wouldn't have if we had 7, but that's fairly slim possibility. So we're in agreement.
Yeah.
We will not appoint, and we will work with the nominating team as such as it is, and look for 3-year candidates and 1-year candidate.
Yeah, we all really need to put on our thinking caps and help to the best of our abilities so that it's not an impossible task for Betty.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
All right. Next, nominating team.
So Betty's watching her granddaughter play soccer, I think it is. Things are going well with the nominating team as we reach out to UC members about serving on the Board of Trustees. Is it okay for me to say names of people who have agreed so far? Todd?
Sorry, the dogs were barking, so I muted myself. Yeah, I think it's okay. It's okay with me.
Okay. So the first person that said yes is Kathy Heaps. That is Alan Bernie Toutante's daughter. She's been coming to this church since she was about 4 years old. And she's very excited. Amy Mars, who is a mother, and her daughter is in religious education. She's a relatively new member of maybe 2 years, and she has also said yes. And then there is a prospective member who has been a longtime member, but she has not made a determination yet.
But you say perspective. She hasn't signed the book yet.
Oh, no. She is a longtime member.
Oh,
She's a prospective candidate.
And she just has not given Betty the yes, so I don't want to.
yeah, sure.
So,
Have we, in the interest of that, has anybody approached James Dotson? He's been a member for about 2 or 3 or 4 months. He's working with us on the
strategic plan. No, he's not been approached.
Okay. And we talked to Kirsten Grant, and she's a little bit overwhelmed with what she's doing.
So be thinking about people and let Betty know. Okay.
Who now? The man, a man and a woman. I think her name is maybe Donna. The man who comes in carrying a little dog cage.
They just signed the book.
But he said he told me he's been a Unitarian for 30 years.
Mm.
I don't know where.
His name is Dan.
Dan. That's right, Dan.
How about that Renee person?
She has not signed the book yet.
Oh, she hasn't.
So how about if we take this out of this meeting and put it back into Betty's hands, and I'll share those names.
Okay. Sounds good.
I think there needs to be a little light between signing the book and serving on the board.
Yeah.
Just for their sake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, but on the other hand, Todd, if they've been Unitarian in other churches or congregations and are willing, how do we do with that, since we really are struggling for names?
Mm-hmm.
I think just for that person's well-being, for them to feel well-rooted, planted and flourishing before they're called upon to accept a lot of responsibility is maybe a good thing.
Yeah.
Again, in the interest of time, I'll share those names with Betty.
Okay, Board of Trustees membership and terms. I sent that lovely color-coded 3 different format chart to all of you, which is nice. I think showing that because there are 7 positions, we don't have 2 and 2 and 2. We have to have 3 and 2 and 2, and that puts us at the most difficult year with the most number of people to recruit. But there it is. Keep it in your binder. And
once before, we published the most up-to-date one in the Sun, so that the church members would get an idea, one, of the fact that we're dealing with positions and names, and also of whose terms are expiring and when. I would encourage this same chart, which I think got sent to Rebecca, but encourage it to be in the Sun, if that would be the board's inclination.
fine with doing that.
Yeah, that would be good.
And I can send it along.
Yeah. And this was worked on with with Dick Steele, who also maintains it. We just have a little trouble with our 2 computers communicating with each other, because he has a Mac and he has a PC and I have a Mac.
I would like to suggest something, that instead of putting it in the Sun now, we wait until our new appointees are elected and then do it, so that they have a list of current board members as well.
It'd be possible. Then we'll revise the chart at that point.
Okay.
Is that's a preferred position?
So after our June meeting.
Yep.
Update in July. And that's when we did the last one.
Yeah.
But with the change with Justin resigning, we thought we should update it to the current condition.
Okay. I'd like to send a formal thank you to Justin on behalf of the board for his service. I've reached out to him recently, but I think it's just a good thing to make it official. So
I got it.
I'll
Thank
go
you.
ahead and do that.
Yeah, and if his so far doing well with his treatments. He doesn't have, last time we talked, which was Sunday, he didn't have side effects, at least very noticeable, and he's very upbeat.
It's good. Nancy, the strategic plan next steps.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, I have been receiving notification from the teams that have responded to the strategic plan questionnaire. And when after April 1st, I will be asking Rebecca to generate a breeze report that will give us a summary of what all the teams have suggested. So coming to you as the Board of Trustees.
Can I add a little bit? In the Buildings and Grounds meeting this morning, we talked about that. I think you'd gone outside by that time. And Julie had not viewed it in the point of getting a full team response. She just thought each person on the team would respond on their own. So you probably won't get one from Buildings and Grounds unless Julie has gotten some way to get an opinion as a team. So
Okay. Okay. Looking ahead, this is the question to the Board of Trustee members. Looking ahead 3 to 5 years, what specific outcomes do you believe our team hopes to achieve? Oh yeah, thank you. I'm a real good writer as well, Luba. Think in terms, thank you. Yes. Think in terms of concrete goals, improvements, or initiatives that would strengthen our teamwork and the life of the congregation. So that's question 1. And I asked you to think about it ahead of time so we could kind of move forward. And one of the first things from my perspective that I would like the board to put as a priority is to pull together a team of folks from, say, finance, the endowment fund, and the treasurer to look at creating a plan for financing our major repairs and not just focus on the endowment, but to look at all the best ways should something arise.
So you're talking about a team that would involve all the people with kind of a financial interest or background. So those were ops team, finance team, endowment team.
The treasurer.
And well, that would be the finance team or the treasurer, depending on how they want to do it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 or 2 board members.
And that would be not the entire team. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm suggesting a member or 2 from each of those different areas to do research on the best way that we would be able to do that.
And report back to the.
It would come back to the board.
Come back to the board.
So it's like a board appointed team to do that.
I like that it brings different areas together, different perspectives, different priorities, and brings them all together to kind of hash it out, make a plan, not for when, but not for if, but when those things come up.
So that's my one suggestion as far as the team. Did others have other ideas from the board?
I do, not kind of along the same line, would be, and again, it kind of comes back to what some of the ushers have been doing, the normal task of ushering, plus trying to be a welcoming committee and identifying new people, and most recently, encouraging people to consider membership. It seems that there needs to be some heads put together to figure out how to do a better job of doing those tasks, and the term welcoming team is what comes to mind. There may be a better name or that, but it's kind of a function I'm thinking of that goes beyond the usher things where someone's really focused on that person when they come in and follow up afterward. Follow up maybe with a phone call afterward if they showed up a couple of times. Make sure that they know that they've got there's a form to fill out if they want to get on our newsletter. James Johnson revealed that he'd been coming for literally months, but he didn't know he had a newsletter. And having signed the membership book some number of weeks ago, I've done a couple of months ago, that should have somehow got in the process, and it apparently hasn't.
So I had a thought. So if you're talking about new projects to take on, like the repair and whatever, how about the project of getting our minister back to full time? And how that might be coordinated with other projects, so it wouldn't just be full time. There would be maybe some emphasis that he would need, for example, in that additional time. You can think about. I think that would be a really good project. What getting back to full time, and how could he maybe pick one of these other things and sort of work with that and make that happen?
So Todd full time with a specific focus kind of idea.
Right.
Okay.
And that would involve
That would include additional funding and
a revision of the ministerial agreement, which very specifically says 3/4 time at this point.
right.
Right. Yeah. Let's say this is a longer term goal, not next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it should coordinate with what the other longer term goals are, and that could maybe have Todd sort of leading something there and being paid more in return for that. That would be a good dynamic, I think.
Yeah, that leads me to another thought that I had, that it's awkward, in a way, because we are a policy board, but some of the tasks are so overwhelming that the only staff we have who does this stuff is Rebecca, and any volunteers, which volunteers come and go. Some of them have been for a while. Lynn Janesian was recently, but I understand she has a job now, and she's not there anymore. I think we're talking about an assistant to operations manager that would be even more part-time, maybe 6 to 8 hours a week. And I estimated that cost in one of my proposals as something that would be, again, a budget item, somewhere in the $10,000 to $12,000, including L&I and all that other kind of stuff. But to get more help in the office to relieve Rebecca of some of the minutia that she deals with, so she can deal with the bigger issues.
Tom, your thoughts and Dick both seem like they fall under that comprehensive church focus section.
Could be.
And they both kind of cry out for money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
For the board, if we are looking for the new members, I just remember how difficult for me was to become the board member. A newbie has no idea. So wouldn't it be better for the potential people who, well, maybe already on the point of agreeing to become board members, be invited and be at the meetings of, so that they can raise to the understanding what the board is doing. And so how it works, that is the kitchen of the Board of Trustees meetings, because it's so hard.
So to get a better understanding of how the church kind of functions, because we talk about everything from heating ducts to money.
Yes.
So a personal invitation to new members.
To new members who are going to begin sometime from now, but invite them to come over and be present at the
Mhm.
meetings.
In fact, Kathy asked if she could attend, and I said, yeah, it's on Zoom, and so you're welcome anytime. So she was talking about doing that.
Okay, good.
I think it's important, that's not our business, but that there is a membership film to watch so people know how to become members. So let's move on. That gives us a couple things. What do you hope UU Spokane will become or embody over the next 3 to 5 years? And my hope continues to be the same, walk the talk.
Well, yeah, I would like to see us over the next 3 to 5 years grow in size.
That's
In
most
size in
important.
membership, because we have an aging building
Yes.
and we have dying members, to put it bluntly.
Well, not all
No, but we lost 9 last year. That's called dying members.
Oh, yes.
So growth, walk the
Growth.
talk,
Yeah.
that has to do with social action especially. Taking part.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on that, I think of the larger community and being a voice for democracy, being a voice for inspiration, leadership. I think of the different organizations that grew out of the Unitarian Church or grew from people who were deeply involved with the Unitarian Church, Planned Parenthood, Pajals, I think,
Mhm.
really had its roots here. Heal,
Yeah.
all sorts of things.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that, that for growth, you're going to need some kind of focus that expands your outreach into the community. And that's not necessarily easy to find. What works in the past may not work in the future, but there needs to be a lot of thought given to that. What kind of initiatives might broaden the reach and make a difference in the Spokane area, and then draw lots of members in because of that over the next 5-10 years.
That's kind of the big picture thing. If we're
Right.
focusing, what could the board specifically do? That's what you're trying to
It's
focus
Yeah,
for the
well,
church.
That would be like a theme, but a theme doesn't mean anything unless there's some concrete things with it.
mhm.
But those concrete things needed to be developed. Maybe a program where you explore different ideas as part of what you're doing, rather than say it's all pre-planned. You won't be able to do that. But try this, try something else, and see what seems to catch. You see.
Well, that would suggest a group of people putting their heads together, maybe inspired by the board as to what organizations could we get involved in more so than we maybe already are, or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe that's the action part of it.
And I think we'll get quite a few suggestions coming out of the Social Justice Coordinating Council when they fill out their team report.
Mhm.
Well, we got first steps. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And then are we gonna deal with a broader issue too, or what?
We did just now. Growth, walk the talk, voice for democracy, and leadership in the community. Those are big church goals,
Yes.
unless there are others that.
Well, one of the, I don't know where it fits, and maybe it'll come up in the either teams or individual persons, but is it a policy issue about addressing the effects of one service versus 2 services? Is that a big effect? Does that have a broader effect? At all that the board has anything to do with by way of looking into that or investigating that?
Well, I think
This
that's
is
Todd's
something,
purview.
thank you. This is something that keeps coming up, usually by the same few individuals. I think that's my purview, as long as I'm here at least. And so I want to keep it to that. But I mean, you're welcome to put it on your goals. It definitely does not seem like a strategic plan to me. It seems like a very narrow focus, and I think that belongs to me with all due respect.
The way your ministerial agreement is that you kind of are in charge of Sunday mornings. And that's what it's kind of come down to when people talk about it. And that's the way I've repeated it when I get questions about it. But it just seems like it's somewhere in this whole process of evaluating where we are and where we want to be, that's going to be something that's going to end up being discussed, whether it's here, something that comes out of the board or something that comes
I don't
out.
know why the conversation's over. I've already made my decision. I don't think it needs to be discussed. For one thing, the first service is our most largely attended service, but I've gone into all of that in the past. I've shown the numbers. You can look at the numbers every Sunday. Both services are well attended. So that's the way it's going to be for now. So I mean, I don't think we should use the strategic plan as a way to keep beating this dead horse. At least it's dead while I'm here. It can be resurrected when I'm gone.
Todd, may I ask a question? Once in a while, once a year at least, we have one service because of the congregation meeting. And that's why we don't do two services.
No, we do two services per congregational meeting. Yeah.
I remember that once we canceled one service and there was combined service.
Yeah, there was something special. I can't remember what that was.
Okay. All right. So, well, no question. It's on a different subject. I was thinking that regarding the church and so on, there are new people in the church coming, and that's a very good sign. And I think that for the benefits of them to know better about the church and maybe bring more people, is to show what this or that team is doing. It's almost like advertising them for the congregation.
We used to do the volunteer fair. That kind of did that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we have large enough, active enough groups to do much of that at this point.
Well, one of the functions of the membership team, is somebody who is on a membership team explained, was when they have a chance to confer and visit with new members or prospective members, is to inform them of all the opportunities of things that they get involved in that would appease to that part of their personality or to that part, or give them a chance to establish some role or investigate some role.
Mhm.
So that's an alternative to the volunteer fair, which we may not
Yeah.
have enough numbers for now.
Right.
Yeah. But maybe it will attract, well, even a little bit, to attract more talents
Mm-hmm.
for the congregation to know what this or that team is doing and thinking about it. Oh, yeah, and then calling for the congregation saying, "Oh, we're looking for talents."
Good idea.
Yeah, and I don't know where that fits in there under kind of a board thing that they'd like to see in the future or not, but yeah.
For the
Seems to me it's something that could be inspired by the board and that we would sit down and something we'd like to see.
Walking your talk.
Uh-huh. Walk your talk.
Yeah.
And the Social Justice Coordinating Council talked about bringing back a volunteer fair. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a board thing, but we should do that so that people know what all is going on. Okay.
All right, to Dick and the budget summit summary.
So I think we had a good first budget summit. And first of all, reminded me that there's going to be a second budget summit. And this role of the first budget summit is to sort of for Rebecca to present what she's put together and the board to look at it and uh, to talk about should there be any changes in the second for this a revised budget for the second budget summit. Basically, coming out of the second budget summit, you want to have a budget maybe with a little fine tuning that will be presented to the congregation at the congregational meeting. That's my understanding. And so Rebecca put together what she described as a continuation, bare bones kind of budget. Uh, Not much different from last year. Uh, and I think the biggest thing is one of the board members pointed out right away, does it include a 3% cost of living increase for the staff? And her budget did not include that, but apparently that has been a fairly standard feature in the past. 3% just being sort of the standard cost of living increases. So it seemed to be several board members thought that maybe that should be considered for the second budget summit. And when we looked at the pledge total, it was $270,000, which is about what we expect this year. But there's been additional membership happening and more people coming. And there was a strong feeling that we could maybe increase our goal. There's a good chance we could. So there was a suggestion, well, let's aim for $275,000 next year. And possibly you could even aim for more, but that was the number that came up. And that would actually pay for a 3% cost of living for all the staff, which was, Rebecca said it came out to about $3,800, $4,000 basically. So that would, if we can raise a little bit more, that would cover the cost of living increase. The other big deal was that in Rebecca's budget, she continued to have a $40,000 fundraising goal, which has been very, very ambitious. And it looks like we may come close to that this year because of the art auction that's going on. That's done extremely well. But some people felt that that was too much to expect for next year. And the suggestion was, let's just lower that to something a little more realistic, maybe down to 35,000. But there wasn't any suggestion as to how to cover that deficit, $5,000. But again, we could maybe aim for 280,000 in pledges next year to cover that. So those are some of the questions that will come up. Another thing I asked about was there was about $2,500 in this current budget for drawn from the contingency fund. I mean, that's just something. The contingency fund is there to cover a shortfall, and it's not in the budget document. But she said the contingency fund now is $24,000, and that's in a balance sheet somewhere. And we want to keep that as a contingency. So the idea is that if there is a big shortfall, that fund would cover it. And in the last several years, there's been some pretty big draws on that. And so she didn't want to have any additional draw on that fund. But it's also pointed out in many years there's actually a shortfall of spending in certain areas. So sometimes the contingency doesn't have to be drawn on, like maybe this 2,500 would not actually be needed to be drawn on if there's a shortfall of spending. But maybe if that spending is, well, say like on some of the, you need a new refrigerator, furnace, this kind of stuff, or whatever. Maybe this is the year to do that too. So these are some of the things that have to be sort of thrashed out at the second budget summit. But overall, I think we're on the upswing, not the downswing. And I think that's good news.
Do you know when the second budget summit is scheduled for?
No.
No, we haven't talked about it yet.
It's after the jet drive, though, right?
I would think it would be after the drive.
Yeah.
Todd?
I just wanted to say about the second budget summit, and I noticed Rebecca said we would have one. Just for your knowledge, if we meet the goal of our budget during the pledge campaign, we don't necessarily need a second budget or budget summit. The budget number two is usually to make further cuts if we didn't achieve our goal. Now, if for some reason we went way over our goal and we wanted to come back and visit, some of the other ideas for spending it, like on the staff cost of living raises or something, we could do that. But I think we should keep our fingers crossed that we're going to have a good pledge campaign and won't really need to have a budget summit number two. That's really what it's for.
Well, I think we need sort of direction from the board is right now, for example, if the pledge campaign does well, should we say, well, let's put the COLA back in, let's be a little
Well,
more.
I think you should probably, we would have to have the budget summit too if we're going to make changes to it, Dick. So
Yeah, okay.
yeah, I don't think that's something you can decide. You should decide now. That'd be a longer
No,
conversation.
we don't need to decide.
Ultimately, the board has to approve the budget that it is going to present to the
Right.
congregation.
But I'm thinking in terms of
The board presents the budget to the congregation as its own, so you have to be happy with it, right?
right. What I'm thinking is if we go out for the pledge campaign, if we say, well, if you just look at what we've gotten in the past, we couldn't afford a COLA for our staff. We'd like to be able to afford a COLA, and that could be a selling point for pledges. Things that might be sort of goals or ambitions. Yeah.
I'd like to mention one thing that was brought to me from the aesthetics team. The art sale raised 12,500, I believe, was the last count, with the possibility of up to 20,000 with some auction items. And the aesthetic team, I believe, has a lot of enthusiasm. They're ready to get up and go and do more, and they would like some money to facilitate that. I know that it's not possible to retroactively give them money out of this year's budget. That's said and done. But looking toward the future, the fact that they were able to raise somewhere between $12,000 and $20,000 is no small thing, and I think it bears some consideration if they want some money to pursue that work for us.
That sounds like a good idea. That could be. Are you talking about a few $1,000s?
They were saying roughly about 10% of what they took in order to fund future efforts.
So
And
if they
again,
if they took in 20,000, they'd want about 2,000.
yeah.
That would seem pretty reasonable, and that might be an item where it could be a selling point in terms of the pledges and whatnot. That we have an enthusiastic art team, and can we fund their efforts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because maybe you could make this higher fundraising level a more permanent thing, even though there's skepticism about it.
Mhm. Yeah, Tom.
Well, in light of that concept, we have Dan Ekrit now sitting and just for Maryland's sake, taking minutes. There's the mechanics of how that would be done. One of the concepts I've heard is that spoken about is if we just use $2,000 for a figure, what would it take to establish an identified fund, much like our contingency fund or a fund for the Memorial Garden, so that there would be money that could come in and go out of that? Is that something that we should ask for in this next year's budget, that we establish an actual fund that would have that money be the seed for, and that people could donate to it if they wanted to? And if it took expenses to set up an art exhibit somewhere and advertise it, they could take money out of that. How would we do that is the question I'm asking. So what's your thoughts, Dick, as the treasurer, and do we need to make a specific recommendation to the people doing the budgeting to set up a fund that's identifiable.
I'm seeing that might be doable, but I've heard skepticism of that whole process. What do other people think who've been around here longer? That if you start, some people are hesitant about creating new funds like that. Others people seem to think there's opportunity there, but
Well, how would you do it? How would you do it? And I know that I saw Dan's hand raised there. Dan, do you have a suggested way that we could identify a block of money that comes from the art sales that we're now experiencing?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. One, we identified 3 or 4 different projects which we would really like to hold some money back. I'll list them real quickly. One is an art rail that would be hanging on the wall so we wouldn't have all these holes in the wall. It is a professional thing that with kind of rails and wires coming down, and it save a lot of the walls that repair that we have to have every couple of years. Another thing would be working on the entry to complete that a little bit, do a comprehensive design and get that out to the congregation. And then once that's approved by the board and congregation, we would like to, I don't know how much we need there, but it's more a planning thing than anything. And the third or fourth would be to bring those plaques up to speed there by the coffee room. And then lastly, we need to get our minister up there out in those boards in the entryway. He's been there 14 years and we don't have a picture of him out there. So those are a couple of little projects, and all we're asking is that maybe we could retain a little of the money that we have already made and through art shows. And I don't think we need to have a long-term pool of money sitting there doing nothing, but basically give us a chance to take money from things that we're already doing to raise money or have done, and that's basically kind of where we're at this point.
Well, but the question I'm asking is, having sat in for numerous budget summits and looking at numerous budgets, where do you put the money? How do you identify the money as being there and being able to be used for the purposes you just described?
Well, we're giving money to Rebecca to put into the budget. What if we just retain some of that? I don't know.
Well, where would you retain it? In your pocket?
It would be
no. We said that this kind of thing is handled fairly routinely in many other places.
Yeah,
like when
I
you
don't
do
care how you do it.
Yeah.
Rebecca could handle it through a separate account. I don't know how they want to do it.
You don't need to. You do need to modify the budget, but in other churches I've been involved is say when they do a big canvas dinner, they put a line item in there for
Okay.
for funding that dinner. You see, and that's just part of the budget. And you could do the same for the art. For the art, you could say, well, for the art fundraising, we're going to raise the fundraising expenses line item in here. I think somewhere in here there should be already a fundraising expenses or
Well,
something.
you're probably right, Dick. That's probably the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
I
just
got
but you don't need a
that
separate
much.
fund. You just need a separate or to increase a line item for the fundraising.
What it sounds like to me is that the board would give its acknowledgement this is a good idea and ask Rebecca to figure out how to do it in a budgeting language.
Here's the problem.
Well, in fact, there is a line item here, 7729. It's called fundraising expenses. It has $500 in it. We could increase that if you need to 2,000 or something. If you need that kind of money to really do the kind of job you need on the artwork. So we have a line item. We just need to adjust that. Maybe add 1,500 or something to it, or 2,000 to it. 7729. I just found it.
The problem this year is that I feel like besides the art team, I'm on the hook for $40,000. And I can't see taking money to put into something that hasn't been budgeted when we're still hanging out there. I think we've got to wait until we see what comes in on the generosity campaign.
Yeah, we don't have to do this now.
Yeah.
We're talking about the final budget in June, yeah. As a possibility, yeah.
Well, that's what Nancy's talking about.
Right.
I mean, that she doesn't see that as being a good idea since we've got a $40,000 or 35,000, depending on how it might get revised.
Right.
That we're trying to raise. That's contrary to what Dan is saying, where they'd like some money next year to work with.
Well,
Right.
no, but Dan thinks they can do a lot more with a little bit of, fundraising expense money there. And making this an art hub, or known for our artwork would certainly facilitate fundraising through art sales and auctions and that kind of thing.
I suggest that this issue be presented to Rebecca and suggest how would she how would it fit best with her knowledge of putting budgets together, whether it's a separate fund that we throw $2,000 into out of the sales that we're now experiencing, or whether we don't do anything, we just try to find $2,000 so Dan can do these projects that might help us in the future to raise money.
Now, you could also put in for just building artwork, you can increase the line item for building expenses to cover that.
I think Nancy's point is that we are spending more money than we have already. Right, and there are every dollar you put somewhere is a dollar you take away from somewhere else. So this is a big conversation around priorities.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if that's what you're here to talk about right now, is the actual priority.
Well, a lot depends on, as she points out, it really depends on how well the pledge drive works.
Well, that's right. I mean, we have to wait for that to happen before you start talking seriously and taking up a lot of your board time tonight, talking about how to spend money we don't have.
Well, no, it can be used as a selling point for the pledge drive. We can maybe fund a little bit of artwork and entryways and things.
Well,
like
I know,
that.
but you're already going into talking about getting Rebecca involved in the conversation and whatnot, and I think it's just it's just too much.
Well, you folks have to make the decision. I just was trying to tell you what we'd like to do, and I'm sure everybody has projects they'd like to do.
Right.
Yep.
That's good to have lots of projects we like to do, and then we do part of them, depending on how the pledge drive works and what the priorities are. You see?
Right.
All right, let me ask another question on a different subject of you, Dick. Where in this published budget do we know see what's actually amount in a contingency fund and a capital reserve fund? Is that actually on this document? And if so, I can't find out where it is.
No, it's not. I asked Rebecca about that.
Right here.
And it's not in this document. She says it's in, I think in the balance document, and basically it has bank balances and things like that. But she just puts, she in this document, she just puts down this $2,500 or so that is being scheduled to be withdrawn from the contingency fund to balance the budget.
But there's
I had to ask her separately about the 24,000, which she said was in a different document.
okay, it's a different document because I think about the fund for a memorial garden, the contingency fund, the capital reserve fund. If one wants to look and see how much is in those funds, where do they look?
In the special funds. If you look at 3012 in the notes section, it says
in the notes section.
There's as of 3/1/25, 40,000. I can't read the number. And then as of 2/15/26, 24,729.
Oh yeah.
Not actually a line item. That's what
It's in a different place. Yeah.
Yeah, the line item is different place, but yeah, some of that is in the notes still as well.
Okay. Well, I would like to see it, but it must exist somewhere.
Yep.
There must be an
Yeah.
account of it somewhere, but I thought it would be nice to have that as part of the distributed budget to show what's in those various funds that are designated for special purposes.
Okay, shall we move on to generosity?
Yeah. So, got together with Sunny Cook, Cindy Fine, Sue Stieritz. Let me think. Got to go around the table. Jean Larson. Who else, Cindy?
Rebecca?
Rebecca was there. And I had generated a campaign using my friend Chad, who's known as Chat GPT. And the team came up with this theme. It's the power of community. And then there are 4 different weeks of the campaign, which begins in April. Week 1 is welcoming the circle, belonging and radical hospitality. That will be Easter Sunday, and that is our welcoming new members service. So we'll have someone speak about how they came to be part of the church. Week 2 is the strength of connection, caring for one another. Week 3, the power of our values, living our UU principles in the wider world. Probably have someone from the Social Justice Coordinating Council speak that week. And the 4th week is sustaining our community. What do you choose to support this community? Why do you choose to support this community with your time, talents, and financial gifts? And have a longer term member speak about why pledging is important to them that Sunday. And so we'll use the same kind of idea of having people speak about the importance of pledging each week. The 3rd week will be our generosity lunch. What did we used to call them? Annual dinner. It used to be an annual dinner. Now it's an annual lunch. So that's just giving you the brief rundown, the power of community. And Rebecca is working on graphics for me, and all that kind of good stuff. Questions?
Nancy, do we have a next meeting scheduled?
No, but we need to do that now that I've got the concert done.
Almost.
So look at maybe next week. I'll talk with Rebecca. And I really love the idea of kicking off the drive with our new member welcoming Sunday. So I'm excited about that. And Cindy, you're going to bring cake, right?
I am.
And we have, I think, 11 new members, and that doesn't include people who might sign the book between now and then. So
It's been a while. Okay, endowment team nomination.
Sue, are you asking a question?
How far back does that new member go?
I think it might go a year.
Yeah,
What was that?
a year.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Our endowment team nomination is basically an information item that Dick Steele and Karen Dorn Steele have agreed to accept nomination to continue on that team. Continue or they're back?
They'd be replacing somebody that's going off.
Okay, okay.
Sue Sturridge could probably address that.
Yeah.
I am going off, and they had to, according to the bylaws, take a year's break. And that's what I have to go off because of that. And so 2 members will be going on and 1 will be going off.
Okay, but what are the nominations? Who are the nominations, or haven't they been decided?
Yes, I sent them in to Cindy. I thought you just said them, Cindy, Karen, and Dick Steele.
Okay, so you're going off. Who's the other person going off?
Just
No one is right now, just me as
Oh.
far as I know.
Oh. Okay.
okay.
But we're within our limits on the bylaws of how many we can have.
Okay.
You know.
That's not a fixed number. It's a range, right?
Yes.
Yes, we have a chart that Dick Steele maintains that shows the terms and when they go off. So he reminded me that I go off.
I thought that Mary Giannini was going off as well.
She came back. She had been off, and so this might be her first year back, or second. I've kind of lost track, but she's not going off yet.
Okay.
I think Dan thought he was going off.
Okay, not to be forgotten.
Oh, I had an item in there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
So we've got the UUCS.
yeah, this is as you all know, we had Eddie Tabash come from Americans United to speak here and spent a whole weekend here. Interviewing with somebody, a couple of dinners and our 2 Sunday services. And then we also had the Social Justice Coordinating Council gave permission and encouragement to publish once a month an article out of the Church and State magazine, and that's going on now. I've been in contact, and I set all this up kind of by working with the editor-in-chief of the Church and State magazine. And I threw out the idea to him, what do you think about a featured article in the Church and State magazine highlighting the partnership between UUCS and Americans United with regard to a speaker, and then our publication in our document newsletter. And he said, that's great. And we said, why don't you write up a 400-word discussion? So I wanted to use the name of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, and I felt I needed to do that by our bylaws to go to Rebecca, and she got back and said, well, we're actually there's confusion. She said, if you want to put it in something that's a publication advertising an event or something, she said, I could give approval for that. But this is an oddball because it's not really advertising an event. So she felt that it needed to go to, that it maybe need to go to the whole congregation to get permission to put an article in the magazine. And I think that's a strict interpretation of it. And I said, I'd like to go to the board and see whether the board thinks that just mentioning the name of the church as having a factual statement of having brought a speaker from the AU and putting a publication in the article, that published once every month. So what's the board's feeling? Can I go ahead and do that article and have the text approved by the Social Justice Coordinating Council? Because I'll mention them as being part of this process. And then also the church as being the entity that is doing this thing about a sermon topic.
I would say absolutely. And I think like the most recent time that we confronted something similar was on the Palestinian thing.
Apartheid free.
Apartheid free, yes. And it required us, it was a little different because it was more of a proactive stance that we were taking and a public stance. This is just reporting on something that happened.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And I'd like to proceed on that basis so I've got a rough draft. I want to polish it up and run it by a couple people, maybe it's a couple of people, Social Justice Council, run it by Rebecca just to make sure that she doesn't see anything that is out of line. But I'd like to go ahead and work on that.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me too.
Yeah.
Todd, are you still with us?
I think he withdrew after 90 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, if you're just using UUCS's name as reporting on Eddie being here, I don't see an issue.
My first statement that I thought I would start out with is the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane and Americans United for the Separation of Church entered into a partnership that involved blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I would mention the Social Justice Coordinating Council so that they know we've got something like that. And just, it would go out to their international circulation, certainly their national circulation. And then I wanted to mention and get from Rebecca, what's the circulation of our son? So that we would know that the AU got that kind of circulation from.
I don't think you should say a partnership.
Well, that's wordsmithing.
Yeah,
That's wordsmithing.
I'm just saying I would.
That's wordsmithing, and that's what I'd be setting out a draft for.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll proceed with that.
Okay, nods all around the table. And then Tom, you wanted to talk about an audit on emergency procedures, or have we already addressed that?
Well, we kind of addressed it, but I think there's a question that we maybe ought to put on a subsequent agenda about how to formalize that. And I'm gonna talk to Gordon Diddens to say, well, do the lay leaders, if they're supposed to have a role, do they really know what their role is?
Mhm.
Or do they need to have some understanding of what their role is? When Todd is not in the pulpit, and that, and kind of the other thing was, who are the other staff who might be involved in that? There's references in the document I got from Warren Carpenter, which is the old document, that the staff would help with the evaluation, so. Jackie's not a staff, he's a
No.
contractor. How about Todd
No,
Milne? He's a contractor.
I don't think so.
How about Rashay? Is she a staff?
I
Is
don't
she a
think so.
contractor?
She must be.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she's staff.
What's that, Dick?
I think Renee is staff.
No, Renee is a contractor.
The
Wait a minute, we're talking about the music director.
there are two different Renees here.
No,
No,
Renee and Rashay.
Rashay, okay, Rashay. Rashay isn't she staff?
Sunday morning, I think it's just Stephanie.
I thought music.
I know that Rashay and Jackie meet with Rebecca for a staff meeting, but I don't know.
Because Debbie was staff.
Yeah.
She was a formal staff. Actually, she was part of the ops team for a while.
I can call Rebecca tomorrow and ask her.
Yeah, and part of this comes in when we talk about a COLA. Dan, are we talking about a COLA for the contract people? Or
No,
Or only
just
staff?
staff people.
Okay,
And
then,
I thought it included, Rebecca and Todd and Rashay. Most of it.
We'll find out.
yeah, well,
I'll let you know.
yeah, and that isn't important to me, but I just raised that question because who did the COLA apply to?
I know it does not apply to the new bookkeeper.
yeah, because she's a contractor.
Yeah,
Was a past bookkeeper was staff, but new one is not. That's Renee Molotov.
well, somebody knows that, Rebecca knows that, because when she put together the COLA, how much the COLA would amount to, she would know whether it includes the contractors or not.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it says here, music director salary, 7201 line item 7201. Music director salary, that sounds like staff to me.
So Rashay must be staff, and Jackie and Todd.
That's my impression. You can verify that, but that's my impression.
Kelly's in there somewhere, she's supposed to have contracts.
Oh,
She
Shelley.
does some of the
Yeah,
stuff,
we forgot about Shelley.
because she cleans up and she runs some of the audio visual stuff sometimes.
And
Okay, I just
there
wanted-
is on the childcare,
Oh.
says nursery care provider wages. It uses a different term.
Yeah, because they're contracted, yeah.
Yeah.
That's more likely to be contracted. I don't know.
Yep.
But for salary, I think that means staff.
Okay.
Right.
And reviewing the to-do list, Tom.
Well, do we have a report on anybody being added to the ops team? We're supposed to have 2 to 4.
No,
We do
not yet.
And we typically rely, just for everybody understanding, we typically rely on a recommendation from them, advice and consent, we would approve.
Yeah.
And
Now, who said letters went out?
Yes,
yeah,
4 letters went out last month.
Yeah. And we don't know of any responses.
No,
or are they all negative?
I don't know. I'll ask Rebecca tomorrow.
Yeah, since we are supposed to appoint, I guess we need to know. And that all boils down to part of that new amendment to the policy and procedures where they're supposed to keep us advised of vacancies.
Yeah.
And when is the meeting for the strategic planning team?
Friday,
At
1:30, I think it is,
1:30.
via Zoom.
Where Zoom? Okay.
And I'll have my family here, and I don't know if I'll be able to.
Yeah. Okay.
But that is, the elephant in the room. I don't know whether Todd's here, but if he is or not, that makes a difference. The elephant in the room is that people want to talk about the services. And it's going to come up unless we stifle. And I don't want to be involved with anything that stifles members
It's
having opinions.
regardless, it is up to Todd.
Well, but nonetheless, the members can express themselves.
Well, the
Yes.
opinion wouldn't hurt. Well,
Yeah, and then they can be ignored, which is essentially probably what would happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the members ought to be able to express themselves, so there should be an opportunity, and I know I've already seen some of it come in.
Yeah.
So,
I know that Sonny Cook cares about that issue.
well, I don't know what world Todd is living in, but a lot of people care.
All right, my friends, we've come to the end.
Number 15.
Number 15.
What?
Yes, number 15, adjournment. I thought you were adding another one in.
No. Dark humor.
Will you sign that one?
Okay, folks,
And
thank you very much
sign
for
this
being
one.
here.
Oh,
This was nice.
do I,
Thanks, guys.
I figure it's important.
can I use your pen? Please, I like the color.
Okay, I recorded this meeting on my phone, which I usually do. It was an hour and 34 minutes.
Not so bad.
That's bad.
Even starting late.
Yeah.
Okay, and here, just the signature, gosh,
Oh, let me write.
yeah.
And I will shut off. Hey, how are you, Dick? Is you and Mona getting along okay? I know there's
Thank you
issues.
notes on the art show.
Oh, no.
We're motor's slowing down, but we're doing okay. But it was interesting that a couple of weeks back we went to a memorial service for a woman who's now married to Mona's ex-husband, or was.
Oh,
She'd gone into hospice care for dementia.
Norman.
But it was a moving memorial service, and this was when Mona separated from her first husband. He had a second wife who died of cancer after about 10 years, and on her deathbed, she recommended another woman to Frank C. Hale, which is Mona's ex-husband, and this is Patty Hart. She turned out to be really good, but for 20 years, but then ended up in dementia. But I think they handled it pretty well at the end. Yeah.
yeah, that would, in my just continuing conversation area, in my support groups that I still attend.
This is for
caregivers.
Jean and
The question
Dan,
sometimes comes up
because
about
Susan is going to send
conversations
out the other ones.
before dementia gets too bad about whether a partner could have or should have a relationship, a partner relationship with somebody while the person with dementia is still alive. That's a conversation.
Yeah, this wasn't an issue in this case because Frank's pretty old. He still has his own health problems.
Yeah.
But still, there was this woman was. It got to a point where in the last 6 months or so, they had to put her in a separate facility. She could not remember anyone's identity.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is. Yeah.
Well, I wish you the best, the two of you, because I'm involved with that and have been for 10 years now.
Mhm.
Okay,
Take care, Dick.
Thank you. Right.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.